All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to another amazing summer empowerment session. I am so glad that you guys have hung out with us all week long. We have done everything from talking about independence to some physical fitness movement, and then we even touched on rehab after leaving the hospital. And so, if you guys have missed any of those amazing topics, feel free to check those out on our YouTube page. Tonight, I am really excited about our presenter and her topic. Um, we have Allie Cameron here, and she's presented before. So this is great to have her back and doing something a little bit different. This time, we are going to be covering content creation and how to create a brand kind of in this disability scene that we are in. This is something that I've kind of been personally playing around with for the last few years, and it's always nice to get other people's perspectives and tools and like what works for them, because sometimes you don't know what's out there. And so it's always nice to get some feedback from other content creators or brand builders in the scene. So, without further ado, I just want to thank every one of you guys for taking some time out to joining us tonight. Feel free to be as active or inactive as you'd like. The more cameras on, the better. I do say people get a better result if they kind of interact a little more, but no pressure if you guys are needing to a little bit of rest. So, without further ado, Allie, thank you so much for presenting and hanging out with us tonight, and I will pass it on over to you.
Amazing. Oh, could you give me sharing access and that way I can share my slides?
You should be good to share now.
Awesome. Yeah. Da, 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 da. Can everyone see that okay? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, awesome. We are rolling. So Bree was actually here for my last talk. I think Shamika might have been at my last talk last year as well. Yeah, I've got some nodding. Awesome. It's slightly different, got a different approach. Something that's been really exciting for me over the last year is that I've coached, I think, over 15 disabled women now who are at different stages of building their brand and businesses. And I really want to use today's time to share a bit about what I'm learning and what I think are some of the core obstacles that we sometimes put in front of ourselves, sometimes have put in front of us. I'd say it's largely systemic across the board. And just some of the beliefs that need shifting, I think, when we're choosing to show up on social media. So, starting with a little bit about me, I have been a disabled manual wheelchair user for almost 20 years. It's actually my 20th life day on Monday. So, big milestone there. Thank you. And I am currently based in Vancouver, BC, British Columbia, Canada. It's a lovely time out here. We're having a bit of a heat wave, which is unusual for us. But last Friday, it also poured with rain. So rainforest vibes. I am married. I've been with my partner for 15 years now. And we have two beautiful little dogs who, if you follow me on social media, you will have seen at some point or another. I am the face, the brain behind the Seated Perspectives brand. I'm going to talk a little bit about how that's evolved. So it started very much as a sort of educational space. I wanted to educate the people in my life who had really had no idea what it was like to be disabled. And I had spent basically 16, 17 years of being disabled, really keeping my disability at arm's length. It was like a very disconnected part of my identity. And it's really only in the last 3 years, through the process of building this brand and engaging with the community and sharing my own stories, but also having my stories reflected back at me, that I've really learned to embrace this part of my life. And I honestly think it's the biggest gift I've ever given myself, because it's really given me access to community in such a beautiful way. And yeah, now I get to share the things that I've learned in my career, which is very much in the content marketing, content writing, branding space. And I've poured it into what I'm doing here in Seated Perspectives. So taking what I've learned in my career in building the brand and now teaching and working with other disabled folks, primarily disabled women, gender nonconforming folks, who are choosing to show up and become visible. And that's not necessarily just through disability advocacy, which is obviously a big important thing, and something that a lot of members within our community who are on social media are choosing to do, but also disabled folks who are building their business and need to increase their visibility in order to make it more successful, or anyone who's just building a personal brand from a more sort of personal project perspective. This is a recent sort of focus for me, but I'm on a mission to make content creation easier for disabled creators. I want to make sure that we're able to show up and be present and be seen without burning out, which is such a big component of what it means to show up for disabled folks. We only have limited energy, and that's just a reality of how our lives are. But there is a way to do it, I think, that sort of fits within that. And so making very intentional choices about how we show up, really also defining what our why is in showing up, and making sure we have sort of very clear parameters around that really helps make it a sustainable project versus one that's ultimately burning us to the ground. So a little bit about the coaching work I've been doing. This is something I launched last summer. The very first person I worked with isn't actually on this list of different identities, but she is someone who's based here in Vancouver, Jill Cavernell. She is disabled and really trying to build a brand where she challenges the body positivity space and tries to include more disabled bodies within it. Her perspective is really cool. She has a very sort of sassy, edgy vibe to her. And we had a really great time in our coaching relationship, but it's also been really cool now, months, almost a year later since we finished working together, just seeing what she's built since. And that's the kind of work that I've done with all of the people on this list. So Alicia Anderson was a client of mine, and she's a full-time speaker speaking on really big stages. I worked with Lucy Webster as well, who's a journalist and author and activist in the UK, an actress in Mexico, a travel writer in the UK as well, a musician, occupational therapist who's introducing sort of sex therapy as well for disabled folks. So really creating a business in the juxtaposition of occupational and sex therapy, which is really cool. And she's someone who doesn't want to show up on social media, but we worked really about defining her brand within her website and how she sort of communicates her work and what she's trying to accomplish to people who might be working with her. So yeah, a whole bunch of different people. And what I'm really pleased with in having such a diverse list is that it really speaks to the intersectionality that exists within the disability community. We really have disabled women of all types with all different walks of life. And it really speaks to how each of us has a really unique point of view, a really unique story when it comes to speaking on social media or sharing on social media. And that's something I want you to hold on to. We'll talk about it in a bit more, but that story element and that unique point of view element is really what ends up making content creation easier. Because when you're focusing in on you and what you know and what you want to tell versus what you think other people want to hear versus what other people are already telling their audiences and you think you should be repeating, then you're just going to get stuck, because then, yeah, of course, like you can't show up authentically and genuinely doing that because it's not you. So holding on to your story is like the first tip that I really want to give you, but I'll give you a bit more of a concrete way to do that in a little bit. So there's two core things in working with these various disabled women that have come up for me. And one is that disabled women have a hard time showing up with authority, even if they have years of experience to back them up. And let's think about this a little bit. Like, it makes sense. First off, we're women. Women are taught time and time again to stay small, to stay quiet, to nod and smile and conform. And I think that grows exponentially as a reality when you're disabled as well. Because if we speak too much, we're seen as difficult. If we point out the problem, then we're being negative. If we talk about our disability, even, we can be seen as negative. People have such a stereotypical understanding of what disability is, and they think it's tragic. So we are fed all these different narratives in so many different ways that even if you've been speaking on stages to massive corporations with thousands of people in the audience, you still wonder if you're making enough of an impact. And that's like a real conversation I've had with one of my coachees. And like, I've had in that list of women you saw, like I had women who signed up for my program and I was like, you what? Like, what? You want to work with me? What? Huh? So obviously that's an example of me doing that myself. But then like, even though I was fangirling, they would show up in the room and like question things about the impact that they're making and like whether their story is like worth telling, whether they like sometimes it was, yeah, it's just like there was one who was a Zumba instructor, Tennille, a Zumba instructor and nutritionist who has 25 years of experience as a nutritionist and still felt really uncomfortable with the idea of showing up and saying, hey, like I have knowledge about nutrition and I could help you as like someone who's disabled and a nutritionist who could help you like really understand your body more and what you should be eating and how to like change your relationship with food. And she was really, really concerned about doing that. Like the imposter syndrome was so deeply ingrained that it was like stopping her from even showing up at all. So that's like a really big issue. And not only does it impact like the social media aspect of it and like drawing attention to yourself, if you're feeling like an imposter, that's the last thing you want to do is put the spotlight on yourself, right? But it's also, I think, making people small from like a strategic point of view. So if I think about Lucy, who is a journalist, freelance journalist, she's an author, has a published book out, The View from Down Here, which is a phenomenal book. And she's been speaking, she's now spoken on a TEDx stage. And she came to me and she's like, I don't know what brings all my work together. And I was like, well, but it's very clear what brings all your work together. Like, you're speaking for disabled folks. You want a better world for disabled folks. And she was like, oh, but because of like that, again, imposter syndrome and that sort of clouding of like, am I allowed to take up space? Or that question of, am I allowed to take up space? She couldn't like take that extra step to be like, okay, this is a strategic statement around the work that I'm doing. This is my why. This is how I'm going to go out and speak about my things. Like, this is how I'm going to put myself forward and say, I want to accomplish this one thing. Like, I started my talk today saying, I want to make content creation easier for disabled folks or disabled creators. Like, that's my one thing. Now, everything that I do ladders up to that, whether it's by like showcasing types of content that I can create, giving you tips or ideas for what content to create, or even as I'm, I think, hopefully doing or will do in the course of this presentation, is give you permission to show up. Because I think that's the thing that we all lack a lot of the time. So that was part one. That's the first thing that sort of became very, very clear to me. And the other one is that content creation feels really, really hard as an idea. And I'll say it as an idea. So I, a few weeks ago, went on Threads and said like, hey, disabled creators, tell me the one thing that stops you from posting. And I don't know, I had an assumption of what it might be, but then everyone proved me wrong. And I got like 5 or 6 different comments from people being like, it takes too much time. I don't have the energy. I get home at the end of a long day. I don't have the spoons for it. Yep. Yeah. Bree's pointing at herself. It's, yeah, I've got some nods. Yep. It's like, I don't have the energy for it. Oh, it's cute. Awesome. And that makes so much sense too. Like, I completely understand that. Like, I've had to like switch out when I do my content creation, and it's always my first task in the morning versus like the last in the day, because that's not going to work for me. But I think the problem stems that, yes, there's a reality. Disabled folks don't have as much energy as other folks. Totally true. But I think the main issue is that we're comparing ourselves to people who have been doing this for years, or who have a massive budget, or who have a whole team that's helping them. And so we look at these sort of social media stars, if we want to call them something, who are like, who get all the followers, who get all the like engagement, who get all the brand partnerships, yada, yada, yada. And yeah, and they're the people who have the time and money and support to do all that. So the first thing I'm going to give you permission to do is not to compare yourselves to them, because I mean, you can go look at my content too. It's not that. It's not hyper produced. I don't know. I don't want to. Like, it's just no. So I think there's a big shift that needs to happen in terms of like how we think about content. Like, it doesn't have to be a super polished video. It doesn't have to be the prettiest carousel in the world that you created from your mind. Like, no, we need to be choosing a much easier path to content creation. And there's a way to do that. And I have some tips, and you can take whichever ones make sense to you. But yeah, it really does take a bit of like a stop, pause, understand what your intention is, who you're trying to reach. And I'm getting ahead of it myself with my presentation, I now realized, but it's just like, it's about really setting your intention and understanding what you're trying to accomplish, and then creating within that, not trying to compare yourself to whoever's like out there, quote unquote, killing it, and trying to be them, because you realistically can't, and that's okay. Like, it's totally okay. Also, reality check in terms of virality. Like, the content that's gone most viral for me is the most like low spec videos that I've ever made. And then the random one that I made around the Paralympics, where it was like, I would get a gold medal for reaching things in creative ways. And that one got like 60,000 views. And I was like, why? But then the things that you really want to get places don't. So also take the pressure off the individual posts is the other thing that I will say. Don't make each post be a be all and end all thing, because otherwise you will drive yourself insane. It's more about what you're accomplishing in the long run, the foundation you're setting, the relationships you're building. Okay, definitely got ahead of myself. But to reiterate, it's not about showing up exactly like the people who are killing it. It's more about building connections with the people you want to reach. Ultimately, I like to focus on the social part of social media. It's about creating the relationships, creating community. That's been such a huge part of how I've developed my presence under the Seated Perspectives brand. It's really about telling stories that bring people in, that people can relate to, that they can come in and be like, and say things like, I really resonated with that, or the line that I've gotten a couple of times that's really, I don't know, really shifted how I started showing up more was that you've said things I've been feeling this forever, but I never had the words to say it, and you had the words. And that's like, oh, okay. Like, I'm out here and I'm actually telling stories that people want to tell about themselves, or want to at least like reflect on. But they've never had the capacity to do it. The other things that are important, and I think I've hinted at this a little bit already, is creating a sustainable approach to content creation. So really listening to what works for you, and letting that be okay. Like, we don't, like, the thing I hate the most about Instagram is the people who show up and have like rules on what works. Like the Brock Johnson, who will come in and say that you have to post every day and you have to do it this way and follow my 30-day whatever. No, it's about, like, again, honing in on you and what works for you, and finding out what your starting point is, and then you can go creating a sustainable practice or system that lets you show up more consistently. I haven't included this in the slide, but the other thing that's important for me to get across is that consistency doesn't mean showing up every day. Consistency just means being consistent, or being like established in your message, in your point of view, in what you want to say, and who you want to reach. So those parts are much more important than how much you're showing up on a given day. And yeah, relatedly, the last bullet point here is just really centering yourself in your why. Why are you showing up? Because if you don't have that, and if you're not aligned with that, then it's just going to feel tedious and boring, or annoying or stressful. And we don't want any of that. Okay, so this is something I've been working on. So I'm getting ready to launch a group program that's going to be called the Gentle Content Club. It's exclusively for disabled creators. It's focused on just, again, similar to what I'm talking about today, reframing our approach to creating content, making it easier for disabled content creators. So I've created a bit of a framework around this, the Gentle framework. There are 6 parts of this. I'm going to hone in on the L part of it for just to stay within time for today's presentation. But I'll give you a little overview as to what's in each of these. And I think you'll note that it's very aligned to what I've been saying so far. So G, grounded in your why. So really that's the foundation of anything that you're going to do from a brand perspective, a social media perspective. It's why are you doing the work? Why are you here? And who are you here for? So remembering the why and the who are just like the core elements of any sort of brand exercise. And that's what leads to consistency if you stay true to those. E is express your point of view. So that goes back to what I was saying, that we have all these unique experiences. So what is your unique experience? What's your unique lens? What is it that you know that others don't? And that's going to frame a lot of the content that you bring to the table. N is name your message. So this is really focusing in on what you want to communicate to the world. So if it's your business that you're trying to promote, then it's the messages around the business, the value of the business, the things that the business helps achieve, or the types of products that you're doing, why you're doing them, what's the story around the products. Like that would be the message in a product or service-based business. If we're thinking more of an advocacy point of view, if you're advocating for more accessibility, then that would be your primary message. If your focus is on educating non-disabled folks, like that was for me at the beginning of Seeded Perspectives, then that was the core message for me. T is tend to your energy. So this is going into sort of building a sustainable practice. But for me, it's about thinking about which platforms make the most sense for you. Because obviously content, a lot of the time people think Instagram and TikTok, and there's a lot of volume and presence there. But like right now, Threads is really growing as a platform as well. And it's much easier in terms of time, energy, commitment to creating something. This part, I also want to focus in on just repurposing content as well. That's a big strategy for me. If I'm writing a weekly newsletter, for example, you better believe that I'm using parts of that newsletter to then create smaller content in Instagram or Threads or whatever that looks like. But it's like really thinking of your content as a ecosystem and pulling bits and pieces from each other to create in different spaces, because your audience varies from place to place. And also repeating content that you've already put out into the world. And never, ever, ever, ever worry about being too repetitive. That's a myth. It's a myth in social media. You know for a fact that the algorithm doesn't put your stuff in front of everyone who follows you. So they're never going to think that it's repetitive. They'll be like, oh yeah, okay. Maybe someone saw both posts and they'll be like, oh, okay, she's talking about this again. That's great. Let me support it again. It's like no one is going to be offended or annoyed by the fact that you're repeating yourself. So go back to a post, put it in a slightly different, if it's a reel, put a different clip behind it. If it's a carousel, rejig the colors or do whatever you feel is enough to make it feel different enough, and post it again. And don't tell anyone that it's a repeat either. It doesn't matter. No one knows. It's like, just let me give you permission there as well. And then L is really going to be the sort of meat of the framework, because I think that most people are going to come into the group program really thinking that their ability to create content is the biggest issue, and you'll probably see me promoting it as the main area. Like most of my marketing messaging will probably be around that, but you really need all the previous bits to then get to the content creation part. So that's why I'm teaching it that way. So L is leaning to sustainable visibility. So this is what I'm going to talk about in a little bit, which is my low spoons, high impact method. And it's just really focusing in on making content creation super easy and repeatable for yourself. And the last bit of it, which I think is such a huge part really, is embody your worth. So it's the mindset component. I talked about the conversations that I'm already having with my coachees, but I think it's a thread that probably goes through the entire disability community to some extent, is that we have a lot of unlearning to do when it comes to knowing our worth and knowing that we do deserve to take up space, and we do deserve to have a voice, and we deserve to say things that exist and are true in our world. And so believing it is a huge part of that. So that's why it's in the framework as well. Okay, before I go on to the next little bit, I just want to make sure there aren't any questions or anything that anyone wanted to go over before I dive into that part. No, we're all good. Awesome. Okay, LSHI is low spoons, high impact. It didn't all fit on the page, so I went small. Okay, so it focuses on a number of core elements. And again, it's all about giving you permission to take a softer, easier approach to content. Storytelling is one of the biggest parts. It's honestly where Instagram is going, where social media is going. People want connection. They want to hear about what other people experience. So storytelling is a big element. If you go onto my account, you'll see that too. A lot of the carousels I've been posting are very much like, this happened. And next slide, this is how it happened. And this is what I learned. And this is where I'm at now. And you can go here too. And this is like, people want that narrative, right? So that's definitely something I want people to lean into more, just because it's easier to pull from your own experience than to try and pull from other spaces. And it doesn't have to be big experiences. It can be something like, I went shopping and I realized this, and then tell people what you realized. And it's just about sort of letting people into your world, and also just, showcasing your point of view a bit more as well. Something I'm calling soft power content. Thanks. Soft power content, which is, again, sharing a bit more of you. This is something I've had to give myself permission to do, which is just like, I'm just going to share a photo of me in the balcony reading my book. And that's okay. Like, people want access to these little things. Most recently, also, I did a 10 things you wouldn't know about me by looking at me. And that was just, again, a little soft way to share things about me that I don't really talk about on social media. It's always really funny to me when I meet someone who I've engaged with a lot on social, and then I'm in person and I'm like, oh yeah, so I grew up in Argentina. And it's like, you what? I'm like, oh, right. I don't share this big, huge part of me in socials, but maybe I should more. So it's, finding little ways to share the smaller nuggets of your life, whether it's Mackenzie with her cat. That could be one way of sharing a little bit of what you get up to day to day as a cat mom. This was just me picking something out of the background. I'm not going to be able to do it with everyone. But Lindsay, for instance, does a really good job of this with her children and her experience as a disabled mom. So it's just finding the little bits and nuances that let people in, and let them in to see the vulnerable side of you. It doesn't have to be the messy or the hardest parts, but the real parts. And the other point here, which I've talked about a little bit, is working with your energy. So what I mean by this, because it sounds great in practice, but sometimes you need a little more tactical, real points here, is really just paying attention to when you have it. So I know this week I've been after really 8 months of not feeling this way, I've been buzzing. I've been super creative, super energetic, super okay, I can organize all my systems. And I did. I have a Notion page. I don't know if anyone knows about Notion as a tool, but it's really great for organizing things and keeping all your docs in one place. And I went and I reorganized everything. And then I was like, okay, I've got enough energy to plan my content for the week. And I did. I at least put down the ideas for everything. And so it's very much tune into when you feel you're at your creative best and saying, okay, I know I'm like in a really good zone today. I'm going to use an hour to plan out what posts I want to create. Maybe film this one talking head video that I really want to do, and do it. And maybe you don't have to post it that day, but at least you have the content there. And then when you have your lower energy days, you can just pick from what you've already worked on. So that's sort of the strategy that I have. There are times I'll tell you where it doesn't work, where I won't post for a good 2 weeks because I'm having a bad 2 weeks. And that's just a reality. And sometimes you keep up with it and sometimes you don't. And then you come back and you don't have to apologize for being away, although I know I do that sometimes. And then you keep going. And that's what's great about, like, really, again, if you're focused in on your who, your why, you've created a strong foundation of an audience that wants to be there and wants to engage with you regardless of whether you drop off or not. And the last bit is leaning into low lift content. So here are some ideas of what I mean, or some examples of what I mean by this. You can screenshot a thread or a tweet that you wrote, put that on on a little clip and have that be the reel. That's it. And then the caption, you don't even need that much because you've got text on the screenshot. So like that's a super easy way of just creating a quick reel that gets something out. You add some trending audio to it, and then you're pretty much done. So that really doesn't take you more than 10 minutes. But other ideas for keeping content low lift is, B-roll clips. So B-roll, I just mean like little videos of day-to-day life. So what you do need to do for that is just to get into the practice of filming. And I was going to say at this point, oh, I'm actually filming myself right now so that I can share that I was talking. I wasn't. I'm going to do that right now. So I got my phone to show that I'm talking. And that's all it is. It's just like having your phone up and then you have a little clip that you can be like, whoa, I never thought I'd be speaking to another group of disabled women about showing up on social media, but today I did. And there you go. I've just got my reel. And yeah, it's just doing a couple of clips like that and making sure that it is a practice. I'm still not used to it. I'm still figuring out how to film while my smart drive is going and making sure that I'm not rolling myself off the street. That's still a work in progress. I think the 4 seconds that I posted today was just okay, but it was like right before I was like, ugh. It is an art form. I agree, Lizzie. It's like, I don't even know. And I haven't gotten to the point where I want to buy like an attachment for my chair to then speak. It's just like, that's too much effort. Okay, filming a little bit more. But yeah, also in the same vein of like working with your energy or with your creative energy, make sure that you have a place to write your notes whenever you have an idea. So that could be your notes app, that could be a WhatsApp chat that you have with yourself. That's how I do it a lot of the time. If you're more of an analog person, then a little notebook that you carry with you, wherever it is, just like write the ideas down, because there are going to be days where you have no ideas. That's just real and true, and that happens to everyone. So just like making sure that whenever something strikes, you have a place to immediately put it. Then you're golden. Because that was like me yesterday. I was rolling back from my physio appointment and I was listening to Maggie Rogers and I was like, oh, la, la, la. And all of a sudden I was like, I had this idea of like, oh, well, yeah, people call me inspirational for no reason. And I'm just like a girly listening to Maggie Rogers while I roll down the hill. And I was like, oh, okay, that's like gold. I don't know if it's going to perform or not, but like I'll write it down and then I'll come back to it. And then I created it later for this morning. So yeah, just make sure that you have somewhere to put those. I already mentioned this, but repurposing past content, that's an easy win. So again, if you're ever in a bit of a rut or energetically, creatively, then you can pull something you've already done before and just repost it. Use templates. Templates are your friend. If you use Canva, Just use any of the templates, change out the colors. That's the one thing I will suggest, because some people, like a lot of people, use the same templates and don't change anything, and then it's like you're seeing the same thing over and over, and there's no recognizability as to who it might be coming from. So if you have a set of 2 or 3 colors that you use all the time, change the template colors to use those colors and go from there. These slides, for instance, I did exactly that. This is a Canva template for presentation, and I just changed out the colors and photos, obviously, and my fonts, and that's it. Like, low lift all the way. Yeah, I think there is an element of Reels as well that they're doing, but also the Edits app for Instagram, I'd say, is like an easy way of just also hacking the algorithm to some extent, because they want to promote what's being made in edits. So they have templates that you can use as well. Look at what others are doing, not to plagiarize, obviously, but like go to someone who you know is in a similar space to you, get a sense of what they're saying or how they're creating something or a story that they've told, and put your own version out. And I know there's a lot of discussion around AI on its environmental impact and the likes. My opinion in that space is that we're all disabled folks are always going to be the butt end of any conversation like this, but we finally have a tool that can make our lives a lot easier, and that can really like reduce the burden of a lot of the work that we have to do just to do anything. So if you have access to ChatGPT, Claude, use it for support. You can train it first with your story, your brand information, things like that, so that it sort of ends up working with you. And at worst, all you're using it for is to edit things. And you can say, hey, this is a post I created. Can you take a look and refine, or at least get rid of any of the grammar stuff? And just, it takes off a lot of the time that you might spend spinning your wheels as well. I've used it, for instance, just to say like, hey, these are the posts that I've created recently. What are some ideas that you would suggest if I'm trying to speak to this particular audience? And just being really specific with your prompts to then get results that you can actually use, versus just like having a pointless conversation. So that's my 2 cents there. It's really, again, about making life easier for yourself, and yeah, and giving yourself the opportunity to show up, because we deserve to, and we need more disabled voices in these spaces and disabled perspectives in these spaces. Okay, yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up my presentation here, which leaves us with some time for questions, which is great. I did want to say, I mentioned this to Bree at the top of the call, I am going to give a free brand audit or social media audit to everyone who's joined the call here. All you have to do for that is send me a DM or an email. My email's on this slide, and I'll give it to Bree after the call as well. Send me a note, let me know that you were in this call or watch the recording, and send me your sort of details in terms of what social media accounts or any other brand assets you want me to look at, and I will do a little audit and share some recommendations as well.
That's amazing. Does anyone have any questions or anything that they would like to ask Allie before we wrap up for the evening?
Hallie, you said something and it like gave me like one of those aha moments. And you said something about, there needs to be more disabled voices, right? And that's so true. And it's so funny because I think that sometimes like for me, you'll sit here and you'll be like, oh well, someone else covered that, right? Well, who's to say that we all have different friends and followers and
Yeah,
environments and worlds and
100%.
do able-bodied people think that? Like, oh, there's so many able-bodied people that are content
Mm,
creators. And I never had that thought in my mind. Like, why why would I think that when like, right, if I was an able-bodied person, like that probably wouldn't even be a thing. And so that's just like another thing that people with disabilities like have maybe in their minds. And so like
for sure.
I never thought of that before. So thank you for just being here tonight and like sharing, and thank you for just being out there and sharing your story, because you're right, like every story is so important to share. And And who cares if we all share the same damn thing? That means that we can resonate with each other. And like that's that power of that community and that
Yeah.
support. And like at that point, it's not necessarily for maybe those able-bodied or professional people who follow us as the information. Like it's for those other people who are in our community that resonate with the things that we have or that are learning from the content that we're creating. Or when we go there and we see it, like on one of those days, we're like, damn, like, okay, all
Mhm.
right, we're all here together in this
Yeah.
and we're all just we're getting through it together. So thank you for showing up for us tonight.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for saying that. It's so totally true. It is so easy to get yourself wrapped up in like, oh, but someone else is already doing that. Like, why would I? And I mean, it goes back to like that just diversity of experiences that we have within the community. It's like, yeah, you might be saying something similar to what someone else is saying, but you're coming at it from such a different angle and such a different lived experience too. And yeah, like there might be some overlap, but your audiences are different, your lived experiences are different, and then you have an opportunity to collaborate down the line if you want to, because you're in the same space. So yeah, I think we need to start looking at it as more of an opportunity than as a like reason not to show up. And yeah, I think both women and disabled women particularly will find every possible reason for not doing for not being visible. And again, that's a taught thing. We're taught to do that. So I completely empathize and yeah, completely understand where it is that that thought was coming from. But yeah, I hope you take this as permission to start showing up a bit more.
I think I needed that as someone who got talks too much on her report card pretty much every single year throughout school. Like
Yeah.
that does something to a person. And it's not until I'm rolling
Mm-hmm.
into like 40 that I'm like, damn, no girl, be loud,
Yeah,
right? And like I'm looking at
yeah,
you, Bree, like you tell me that, like be loud, right? Like tell
yeah.
your story and you're worth taking up that space. And so,
100%.
yes.
I want to hear your story, Autumn. I want to hear it every day. I want to hear the story over. No, I'm just kidding. Um, Ali, I first of all, I would love. It's fun to see your conversation like now as opposed to the first one you did. It's like,
I
oh,
know.
Ali, you're like growing up. Like, you know what I mean. Like, it's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I mean, I see. Like, I just love seeing how um you're thinking a lot about the energy piece and like the what we're putting into this because okay, I feel like something I wanted to ask you and just put it out there is like I feel sometimes like how are we managing like feeling kind of discouraged if we like spend a certain amount of time and energy on like I don't know a post that we kind of like we thought we're gonna well, this is gonna be a banger and then it's like crickets and it's and
yeah.
like I guess I'm kind of curious about if what your strategies are for that like when you start to notice you're like wow I thought that one was gonna like slap and then it's just like wah, wah, and you're like
Yeah.
okay, well maybe
Yeah.
no I don't
I
know
think no, I think I used to get really upset about it. I think now I just get annoyed. So now it's just like,
yeah. Okay,
damn it.
yeah,
I mean, and that takes time. I'm not going to say that that happens overnight, but I think it goes back to what I was saying of like thinking about the bigger picture.
uh-huh.
That like the one post isn't gonna drive that much. I mean, like, yeah, sure, there are posts that go viral that then bring people in, but that's not necessarily going viral to the people that you want to reach. It's not necessarily going to be like, in your case, all wheelie moms who are watching that content and then coming in. Sure, there might be a percentage who are like, oh, wow, I see myself super identified.
Yeah,
But like, it's almost like the turtle will win the race in the sense of like if you create a foundation and become super known for what it is that you're saying, what it is that you're doing, then people will arrive at your profile and go through your posts and be like, oh yeah, this is my home, this is where I need to be.
okay,
So that's sort of the mindset shift that's happened for me where it's like my growth lately has been like not great. Like I grew really well last year and it was a like boon and it went really well through roulettes and attending there and like getting some, but even like I had a post that the @feminist account shared that we did collaboratively and that didn't really bring in stuff for me either. So it was a bit of like, oh, weird. But I can still say, hey, I was featured by feminists. So I'll keep saying that till the cows come home. And that just adds credibility. So yeah, I don't know. I'm less focused on what each individual post can do at this point. And it's more of like, okay, how is this collectively telling my story?
Okay.
How is this collectively telling people how they can work with me? If that's something that I'm focused on, like next month, everyone's going to be so tired of me because it's going to be very much just promoting this group program. But also just finding creative ways of telling a bit of my story as I do that sort of thing. But yeah, it's just looking at it as a bigger picture thing versus
that's really helpful.
So much pressure.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful because that it's easy to get stuck in like, okay, I post it and you're like looking, you're like, and it's like, oh my God, who cares? Just keep, I think I say thank you. It really, really helps me because I was getting kind of like, I'm kind of like, oh God. Yeah, but okay.
So, and to play onto that, Lindsay, just one thing that because I struggle with that same thing as well, especially when I share something like passionate about like my hooping or like growing or like personal development and stuff like that, because like that's kind of the stuff that I really love to talk about is like kind of doing more and like trying to like try something new and things like that. But um just what I've kind of learned is just if as long as you love it, even if it doesn't do well, like just be proud of like that. Like there's times where my hoop videos don't do as well as I thought. Like I used the trending audio, I had a good hook, I posted at the right time, but it still like didn't get the traction. But I was like, dang, I was really proud of that video. And just keep doing it because I mean, little things will also play into it, like time of day. There's going to be lulls in what they push like after certain holidays, certain times of the year. And so there's just going to be times where you have a really good darn piece of content and it doesn't just it just but I feel that. But just be really proud of everything that you make. And just feedback as a viewer. I love everything that I see. Everything that you make is super relatable, even not to like your content is mom curated, but it literally helps everybody. So you're doing something even more than just helping the mom. So be really proud of that.
Yeah.
And then Allie, there was a question from Tiffany Allie saying, how do you balance feeding the algorithms with regular content and not giving an unrealistic picture of what you're really capable of doing day to day?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that goes back to what I was saying around just listening to your energy. And if you're able to pop into a like trove of stuff that you've already created or repurpose something that you've already created and post that, then great. If you don't even have energy for that, don't post. Like that's fine. And if you want to share about you being in a lull, you can as well, and just sort of give a heads up in your stories and say like, hey, having a really tough time. It's really hard to post right now. I'll be back, or whatever it is that you want to share. But yeah, my value and approach there is very much to be real and honest, and not just with the people who are following you, but with yourself as well. Because I think another instinct or another taught thing for a lot of disabled women is that we push ourselves hard because we feel like we have to. And that again goes back to being unsustainable. So yeah, the algorithm has very little space in my brain at this point. It's like I'm focused on who's on the other side of the screen when I'm posting something. If I'm being clear in the message that I want to get to them, if I have the energy to post in the first place. And that's about it. It's more of an avenue towards the other stuff that I'm doing versus like trying to be on all the time. It's just not possible.
I have a question sort of about when you get comments that are like the hate or like troll comments, if those are ones that you should just ignore or like maybe come back with like a witty response.
Okay, I've been very fortunate in that I haven't had a lot of trolling on my Instagram, which is great. I appreciate it. It's the one thing that I really value about the fact that I'm not a mega like sized account. It's really nice. My content doesn't get too much exposure. It's great. I though did have a thread land in the wrong side of the internet, and it was like, oh, it was really unpleasant. It was awful. It was around the time of like Trump blaming disabled folks for the airplane that went down in Washington. And I posted something about it, and just like the attacks were awful. And I was okay with it for a bit as it was happening. And I'm like, okay, I don't need to respond to this. Like, it's just not going to go anywhere if I do. So I didn't respond. But then even the notifications got really draining of like going and seeing how many people, like it was 500 people, 500 comments on that of just like hate. And what I realized is that it really drained me just knowing that that was happening. So I don't have a real answer here because other than like I wouldn't respond because you're not going to get anywhere with it. These aren't people who are willing to be educated or open to being educated or like to have a conversation. That's just there to spew hate. And that's just going to draw from your energy if you participate in it. But for me, if that happens to me again, I need to find a way to like I don't know if I would even take the post down or something, just to find a way to like not have to be exposed to it, because it feeds off, people feed off each other, and it can be really, really draining. So I will get back to you with what the solution is there. But yeah, for individual comments, I wouldn't bother. You can hide them if you want. No one's going to say anything. Yeah.
Okay, I had someone comment on a video where I was showing how like to get off a high curb.
Yeah.
But the way that I titled the video is how to get off a high curb. And this person had said, like, it's not that simple. And I replied saying, like, it just takes practice. There are other ways to get off a high curb with help.
Yeah.
And then they replied with a really long, like, I had to hit show more 4 times.
Oh my.
With them like talking about like why they can't do it, and then they were like, how would someone in a power chair do this? Do this. The way you word it sounds like you're shaming people who don't know how to do it. And it's like, I didn't learn the skill until like a few months prior, like a month or so prior to making that video. Yeah. So I just replied with an apology, like, I'm sorry it came off that way. Thank you for bringing it to my attention.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't intend for that, but, and it was just like.
Yeah. That's fair. I think you handled that the best way you could have. Like, I'm sorry that's how, like, because clearly this is someone who was ready to be affected. And you get that quite a bit. Like, people will come and say things. And I think you pulled out the thing that was valid in terms of what you could respond to, of like, I'm sorry that's how it came off. Like, I mean, down the line, I'll think about how I title my videos. Like, that's it. Like, you don't need to do more than that. The biggest thing I think across the board for social media is that you're not going to please everyone.
Yeah.
That's just a reality. It's a numbers game. You're reaching however many people you're reaching, and then someone's going to be unhappy. I think, like I said, you did the best approach in terms of responding to it. So I wouldn't let it take any more space in your brain at this point.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And sometimes we're just triggered, right? And like that's so hard because like us as people, and you're not responsible for how he or she or they felt about that, right? And I just, sorry, like to jump in, but like I totally feel like, because like that empathetic part of you, like no, like I was just, number one, I was proud of myself and I wanted to show other people that might be able to, right? Like that was your intent. It wasn't this ill intent of like what's up to the people who can't. It had nothing to do with that. And so like just try to, like, you took space for how they felt, but also remember to take space for what your intention was, and knowing that like you had true intentions.
Yeah, like I had said that I was just like trying to show it for other people who, you know, just as a source of help.
Yeah, exactly.
That was their thing, not yours, babe. I think that's what I would say. Like overall, like, and that's, and that's probably just going to happen no matter what, no matter, even if you'd said, took all this time to be like, let me, like qualify this or something. It's like, no, that's just their thing. That's their thing, not yours.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
like,
Yeah, like I like told my boyfriend that I think she was just like projecting.
that's right.
Yep. Yep. No, entirely a them thing at this point.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Mackenzie. I appreciate you sharing that with the group and
Yeah.
letting us kind of help process that with you and kind of find some solutions and give you the space to let you know that you were doing the best you can. So I did see Shamika unmuted and we do have like 1 minute left before we go. Shamika, did you want to ask a question or say anything before we go?
No, no, I was just shaking my head and agreeing with everything. I mean, everything that you were saying, when you started talking about, do you reach out to people? And because I was actually thinking about that right before this call, like thinking about,
Mhm.
the fall is busy and, what am I going to focus on? Things like that, is do I, because every once in a while I get these ideas like, okay, do I ask people what they want or do I just post what I feel like,
Yeah.
this is great and it makes me happy. And if
Yeah.
you like it, great. If you don't, and that's great too, whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that's definitely where, I was just shaking my head in agreement. And as far as people and their comments, I mean, it really just depends. I for a while, my favorite feature I primarily post on Facebook is 30-day mute. So it's like, don't give it the energy,
No, that was
put
a
people in
thing.
timeout, it's like Facebook timeout. Okay,
I love
not,
that. Oh my
not
God.
dealing with it. Because one of my favorite quotes, and I know we're ending here, I like to say is, it's by a quote by Jill Bolte Taylor, and if you've heard me speak, you've heard me use this quote. It's please be responsible for the energy that you bring into this space.
Mhm.
And that means in
Yeah.
person, that means online, that all of its energy. And we get to decide the energy that we are allowing into our space, our head space, our body space, whatever space.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's all I have to
Love
say.
that. What
I
a
think
great way to wrap up.
between that last little nugget that Shamika shared and all of that amazing social media wisdom, like tonight was just like what a good way to end the week. So,
Hmm.
well, if there's no more questions or comments or anything for Allie, I will wrap it up and be respectful of everyone's time. But just first of all, thank you guys so much for sharing and getting involved and asking questions or getting involved with the chat. Allie, thank you so much for sharing all of your insight and tips and just giving us the space to like feel comfortable creating with how we want to create. As she shared, there's a lot of different ways and different avenues and approaches we can all take. But we really have to figure out what works best for us in that season. And also, this has
Mhm.
also been a big topic of the week. Seasons change. There's going to be times where you have more spoons in your cup than you do in the rest of the year. That is okay. If you have to take a step back from a couple things for a little while and hop back in later, that's okay. Um, be graceful with all the things. So, as always, thank you so much for coming and supporting all of us and pouring into Wheel with me. But even more so, thank you for pouring into you guys. Thank you for taking an hour out of your nights and pouring into you to make yourselves a little bit better. That's what Wheel with Me is about. It's about growing your independence and just being as capable as you want to be in your life. So thank you guys so much. We will have this recording sent out to you here just shortly. I will have Allie's social media links included and then her website links included as well. And I'm sure if you guys have any additional questions moving forward, she would love to get a message from you in her inbox.
Yeah.
Other than that, you guys have an amazing, amazing weekend. We will have another empowerment week, second week of November. Block your calendar off now. And we will be announcing some speakers and fun stuff here probably next month. So thank you guys. Have a lovely weekend and have a good night.
Bye.